He rescued the alien princess from a burning sky fortress by dawn. Their people called him Anemy. The sky was burning the night Kai Mercer thought he would finally die. Flames carved across the heavens, streaks of molten debris falling like red rain. A fortress, no, a citadel of the alien clans, was tearing itself apart above him, its wings of steel and light folding into fire as it screamed down through the clouds. The night was alive with thunder and breaking metal, the valley floors shaking under every impact. Kai stood frozen among the jagged rocks of the canyon, breath ragged, eyes wide. He'd seen plenty of destruction in his soldier days, cities bombed to ash, fleets ripped apart in orbit, but nothing like this. This was no battlefield. This was a funeral pyre for gods. And then he heard it, over the roar of collapsing engines, the wind carrying the faintest sound, a voice. It wasn't human, too deep, too resonant, layered with a strange echo. But it was alive. Kai's heart jolted. He should have turned back. He should have run, buried himself in his outpost bunker until the sky stopped falling. Terran law was clear. Interference with alien craft meant imprisonment, maybe execution. The authority made examples of anyone caught aiding the clans. But that sound, the cry buried in the wreckage, dragged him forward. He sprinted across scorched earth, boots slipping in the ash, shielding his face from the rain of burning fragments. The wreckage loomed before him, a twisted spire of alien steel driven deep into the valley floor. Flames licked across shattered plating, smoke boiling into the crimson sky. The voice came again, louder this time. A gasp, a groan. Kai shoved through a half-melted bulkhead, the heat searing his hands through his gloves. He stumbled into a collapsed chamber, firelight flickering across broken thrones of alien design. And there she was. She lay half-buried beneath a slab of plating, her massive frame pinned, her armor scorched and split. Even broken, she was magnificent, taller than any human woman, perhaps 7 feet if she stood. Her skin a pale silver marked with faint lines of bioluminescence that pulsed weakly in rhythm with her fading heartbeat. Her face was sharp, regal, framed by long strands of hair shimmering with metallic gold. A crown of scorched crystal lay shattered at her side. She wasn't just a soldier. She wasn't just a giant. She was royalty. Her eyelids fluttered open, revealing eyes unlike any Kai had ever seen. Deep pools of violet light that seemed to burn even through the smoke. For a moment, they locked him to his, and she whispered, in broken Terran standard, "Help me!" Every survival instinct screamed at Kai to run, to leave her, to save himself. Helping her meant death, not just from the hunters who would surely come, but from his own kind. Terran soldiers hanged men for less. Collaboration with hostile forces was a crime with no appeal. But then her hands shifted, fingers clawing weakly against the slab, crushing her ribs. The sound she made, a raw human sound of pain, ripped through him. Kai swore under his breath. "God damn it!" He threw down his rifle and pressed his shoulder against the burning metal. The heat seared him. The weight nearly shattered his bones. But slowly, inch by inch, the slab shifted. The alien woman's chest rose in a gasp, her massive lungs sucking in air like she'd been drowning. With a final heave, Kai shoved the debris aside. He dropped to his knees, panting, and reached for her arm. "Come on," he said, voice raw. "You're not dying here." Her body was impossibly heavy. Lifting her was like trying to drag a stone column out of the earth. Every muscle in Kai's back screamed as he hauled her onto his shoulders. Her armor cut into him, blood dripping from her wounds onto his jacket. The wreck groaned above, plates collapsing, fire spreading. Any second, the whole structure could implode. Kai staggered through the flames, each step a battle. Her head lolled against his shoulder, hot breath rasping against his neck. He could feel the faint glow of her bioluminescence pulsing against his skin like a second heartbeat. Behind him, the wreckage roared as another section collapsed, flames rushing outward in a wave of heat. Kai stumbled, almost fell, but forced himself forward toward the canyon's edge. And then her voice came again, soft but clear in his ear. "Why, help? Me?" He gasped out a laugh, half mad with exhaustion. "Don't ask stupid questions." They burst out of the wreck just as the chamber behind them caved in, fire chasing them into the night. Kai collapsed to his knees on the rocky ground, laying her gently against a slab of stone. The alien woman coughed, blood flecking her lips. Her eyes fluttered open again, searching his face. She whispered something in her own tongue, the words low and melodic, carrying weight he couldn't understand. Then, in broken Terran, "My name, Serenia." Kai swallowed hard. He should have walked away. He should have let the fire take her. Instead, he found himself gripping her hand, her massive, clawed fingers curling weakly around his. "I'm Kai," he said, "and you're not dying on me, Serenia. Not tonight." But then he heard it. Engines, low, thrumming, closing fast. Not the fortress, not Terran. Hunters. Kai's stomach dropped. Of course they would come. Of course they would track her down. He'd heard the stories. Enforcers of the clans, sent to kill or retrieve anyone who defied their traditions. And if she really was royalty, if she was the princess of the aerial clans, then every hunter in the skies would be hunting her. Serenia's eyes widened at the sound. Panic flared across her regal features for the first time. "They come," she whispered. "For me. For you." Kai clenched his jaw, hauling her up again despite the fire in his muscles. He glanced at the ridge, where dust clouds rose beneath the glow of approaching skimmers. Not much time, not enough ammo, not nearly enough strength. But leaving her here was no option. "Then let them come," he muttered, teeth bared. He pulled her toward the canyon, heart hammering, stormlight blazing above them. And for the first time since the war had ended, Kai Mercer felt alive. Alive and standing on the edge of a story that would change everything. The storm refused to die. Kai Mercer stumbled across the canyon floor, Serenia's weight dragging at every tendon in his body. Each step echoed like thunder through his bones. Behind them, the burning skeleton of the fortress still smoldered, a red wound across the night. But worse than fire was the sound of engines. The hunters were close now, skimmers slicing across the valley with surgical precision, lights sweeping like blades through the dark. Every instinct Kai had learned in the war screamed at him to disappear, to find cover before he and Serenia were pinned. He found a fissure at the canyon's edge, narrow but deep. With a grunt, he guided Serenia into its shadow, her massive form barely fitting between the rocks. He pressed her down gently, crouching beside her. "Stay still," he whispered. Her violet eyes flicked toward him, fierce even through pain. "I'd not hide." "Yeah, well," Kai muttered, checking the charge on his rifle. "Tonight you do." The first skimmer passed overhead, its engines humming like an angry wasp. The searchlight swept across the canyon floor, stopping briefly on the fortress wreckage before moving on. Kai held his breath, every muscle locked. Serenia's chest rose against his shoulder, her breath warm and ragged. He could feel the tremor in her body, not fear but fury restrained. She was a warrior at heart, no matter how broken she looked. When the skimmers passed, Kai allowed himself a breath, but Serenia's hands shot out, gripping his arm with startling strength. "They not stop," she hissed. "They hunt until dawn." Kai looked at her, really looked at her. The crown shattered at her side, the regal armor scarred and scorched, the glow of her bioluminescence dimming. She wasn't just anyone. "You're important," he said slowly. "That's why they're after you." "Who are you really?" Her gaze locked on his. She hesitated, jaw tightening, then spoke. "Serenia Vera, blood of the matriarch, heir of the aerial clans." Kai's stomach dropped. Princess. He wanted to laugh, to curse the stars. Of all the people he could have pulled out of a fire, He dragged out a goddamn alien princess. Great, he muttered. You're royalty. I'm dead. Serenya's lips curled, not quite a smile. You were dead when you lifted stone. Now you live only because I breathe. Kai blinked. That's a hell of a way to say thank you. Her expression hardened again, though the faintest glimmer of amusement lingered. Hunters do not come for death alone. They come for shame. Shame? She turned her face away, eyes shadowed. I refuse binding. Treaty of blood. They wanted me chained to Warlord of Ash Clan. I said no, so they burned my sky fortress and hunt me until my name erased. The truth hit Kai like a rifle butt to the gut. She wasn't just running. She was defying an empire. And now, by saving her, so was he. The skimmers circled again, closer this time. Kai's heart hammered. He checked his rifle, half a charge left. Not enough to fight them, barely enough to slow them down. He glanced at Serenya, who was trying to push herself upright despite her wounds. Her stubbornness made him want to strangle her and laugh at the same time. Sit down before you tear something open, he hissed. She glared, regal even in ruin. You command me? I'm trying to keep you alive. Her eyes burned into him for a long moment. Then slowly she sank back against the rock. Good, Kai muttered. We're making progress. Hours blurred together as they crept deeper into the canyon, always staying one step ahead of the hunters. Twice searchlights nearly caught them. Once Kai was forced to fire, dropping a scout drone with a single shot. Each time Serenya watched him with a strange intensity, as if weighing every choice, every word. At one point when they paused to rest, Serenya spoke softly. You risk death for me. Why? Kai leaned back against the stone, sweat stinging his eyes. Because I couldn't live with myself if I didn't. Your law forbids it, she said. Your soldiers hang men for less. Yeah, Kai muttered. I've never been good at following rules. Her lips parted, almost in surprise. Then slowly she leaned closer, her massive form casting him in shadow. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Maybe. You are more clan than Terran. The words stirred something deep in him, something he wasn't ready to name. By the time dawn edged over the horizon, they had reached the ruins of an ancient watchtower, half buried in the canyon wall. Kai guided Serenya inside, helping her lower onto the cracked stone floor. Her strength was fading. Her breath came shallow, her bioluminescence dim. She needed rest, or better, medical aid, but neither was possible. Kai knelt beside her, checking the bandages he'd improvised. You'll make it, he said, forcing confidence into his voice. Just hold on. Her eyes found his again, sharp even through exhaustion. You carry weight too heavy. Story of my life, he muttered. But she didn't let it go. Her hand lifted, trembling, brushing against his chest. Why? Who do you carry? The question pierced deeper than he expected. He swallowed hard. My sister, he said quietly. Lara. She died because nobody stopped to help her. I swore I'd never walk away again. For a long time, Serenya was silent. Then she whispered, Then maybe stars sent you. Her hand lingered against him for a moment before dropping. Her eyes fluttered shut, exhaustion claiming her. Kai sat beside her, staring at the rising sun through the broken tower. And that was when he heard it again. Engines! Louder this time. Closer. He scrambled to the window and froze. 3 skimmers swept into the canyon, hunters armed and ready. Their leader raised a blade that shimmered with light. And his voice boomed across the valley. Return the princess, or burn with her. The hunters came with the rising sun. Their skimmers glided low over the canyon, engines a steady growl that made the rocks tremble. Crimson banners whipped in the wind, each marked with the sigil of the Ash Clan. Black wings spread across a blood-red sky. Kai Mercer crouched inside the ruined watchtower, his rifle pressed against the cracked stone window. Beside him, Serenya struggled to sit upright, her breath shallow, Her armor cracked open across her ribs. "They've got us boxed," Kai muttered. "No way out." Serenya's violet eyes glowed faintly in the morning light. "Then we do not run." Kai looked at her, incredulous. "You can't even stand, and you want to fight?" Her jaw tightened. "Better to fall in battle than crawl the chains." For a moment, Kai saw her not as a broken fugitive, but as what she truly was. An heir, a warrior, a flame that refused to die. And for a moment, he almost believed they could win. Then the hunters dismounted. They were giants like her, clad in armor of black steel and bone. Their blades burned with plasma light, curved like talons. Their leader stepped forward, taller than the rest, his helmet crowned with the skull of some winged beast. "Serenya Vera," his voice boomed across the canyon. "By law of clans, you are condemned. By oath of blood, you will return. The Terran who harbors you will die screaming." Kai cursed under his breath. "Friendly bunch." He lined up his rifle and fired. The bolt struck the leader square in the chest. Sparks burst, armor cracked, but the giant barely staggered. "Uh-oh," Kai muttered. The hunters charged. The canyon erupted into chaos. Plasma blades hissed as they tore through stone. Kai fired until his rifle overheated, dropping 2 hunters with headshots before diving for cover. Serenya, wounded though she was, dragged herself upright. With a roar that shook the ruins, she seized a fallen blade. Sparks danced across her bioluminescent markings as she swung, cleaving one hunter's weapon in half. For a heartbeat, Kai forgot the fear. He forgot the odds. Watching her fight, bloodied, broken, but unyielding, was like watching fire itself take form. But there were too many. The leader's blade cut across Serenya's side, sending her sprawling. Kai lunged forward, putting himself between them, rifle raised like a club. "Stay down!" he shouted. The hunter's blade stopped inches from his throat. The leader's eyes, dark and cold behind the skull mask, narrowed. "Why do you protect her, Terran?" Kai's grip tightened. His voice came out raw, defiant. "Because no one else would." The leader hesitated. For the first time, the blade wavered. The other hunters shifted uneasily, their charge stalling. Then Serenya coughed blood, laughing bitterly. "Tell him, Kai," she rasped. "Tell him the truth. Tell him why you walk this path." Kai's stomach clenched. He didn't want to say it. Not here. Not like this. But her eyes demanded it, and the hunters were waiting. So he spoke. "2 years ago," he said hoarsely, "I was stationed at the Canyon River. After a skirmish, I found a girl drowning in the rapids. She wasn't human. She wasn't clan. Just a kid, terrified, clinging to a rock. I pulled her out, gave her food, carried her back until she could walk. Then I left her. Didn't even ask her name." The canyon went still. The leader lowered his blade. "The river child," he whispered. The hunters murmured, their voices trembling. Serenya's eyes widened. "That child was my sister." Kai froze. Serenya's voice was shaking now, the steel of her defiance breaking. "She told me. She spoke of a Terran with fire in his eyes, who carried her when the river tried to claim her. She swore the stars bound her life to his." The leader stepped back, blade lowering fully. His voice, once filled with venom, now carried something else. Fear. "Star life debt," he said. "Sacred law. Life for life. If he saved her, he is clan. He is untouchable." The words rippled through the hunters like thunder. Even Serenya seemed stunned, her gaze locked on Kai as if seeing him for the first time. Kai's throat tightened. "I didn't save her for this. I didn't even know who she was." Serenya's lips parted, trembling. But stars knew. The hunters argued among themselves, voices clashing. Some shouted for his execution anyway, calling him a fraud. Others warned of curses, of bloodlines shattering if the law was broken. Finally, the leader raised his blade again, not at Kai, but in salute. "This cannot be judged here," he declared. "The matriarch herself must see. Let her decide if Terran blood holds weight in the stars. He gestured. Two hunters seized Kai's arms. Another lifted Serenia, careful despite her protests. "Hey!" Kai shouted, struggling. "I'm not your prisoner." "You are Det," the leader interrupted. "Det walks to judgment." They were dragged onto the skimmers, engines roaring to life. The canyon shrank beneath them as they rose into the storm. Kai's heart pounded, rage and fear twisting together. He looked at Serenia, bound beside him, her face pale with blood loss but her eyes burning. "What the hell just happened?" he hissed. She met his gaze, voice low but fierce. "You became more than Terran. You became Det written in stars." Kai stared at her, the weight of her words sinking like stone. He had gone into the wreckage to save a stranger. Now he was bound to people who saw him as something he never chose to be. And above the storm, the horizon split with light. The matriarch's war cruiser descended, its banners blazing, its shadow swallowing the valley below. Kai's breath caught. Judgment was coming. The war cruiser descended like a storm made flesh. Its hull glowed with constellations etched in silver light, banners unfurled against the morning sky. Engines howled, shaking the canyon walls as if the planet itself feared the weight of its arrival. Kai Mercer stood bound on the hunter skimmer's deck, the rising wind whipping his hair across his eyes. Beside him, Serenia struggled against her restraints, regal even in chains, her violet gaze fixed on the descending ship. "That's her," she whispered hoarsely. "The matriarch." Kai's stomach turned. He wasn't sure which was worse, the alien council's judgment or the fact that Terran authority ships were closing in from the opposite horizon. Two worlds, one human caught in the middle. The hunters dragged Kai and Serenia into the heart of the matriarch's cruiser. The throne chamber was vast, carved from metal and stone, every wall alive with glowing veins of bioluminescence. Elders lined the edges, cloaked in ceremonial armor. At the far end sat the matriarch herself, tall, imposing, her silver hair flowing like a river of light, her markings glowing brighter than any warrior's. Her eyes locked onto Kai the moment he entered, cold, sharp, ancient. "So this is the Terran," she said in perfect standard. "The one my law name's Det." Kai's throat went dry. "Name's Kai Mercer, and for the record, I didn't ask to be anyone's Det." A murmur rippled through the chamber. Hunters stiffened, elders bristled, but Serenia's lips curved in the faintest smile. The matriarch raised a hand, silencing them. "You speak boldly. Perhaps that is why the stars bind you. But law demands proof. Today, before clan and council, your truth will be weighed." A circle was carved into the floor, glowing with searing blue light. The hunters shoved Kai into its center, Serenia bound just outside the ring. The matriarch's voice filled the chamber. "By dawn's light, we call the trial of stars. This Terran claims the river debt, sworn by my bloodline. If truth burns in his eyes, he will live. If not, his bones will feed the valley." Kai swallowed hard. No pressure. An elder stepped forward, eyes gleaming. "Terran, speak the moment. What did you see at the river?" Kai closed his eyes. The memory rose, sharp as glass. The rapids roaring, the child's screams, his arms burning as he pulled her free. "I saw a kid drowning," he said softly. "Not human, not clan, just a kid. I gave her air, food, walked until she could stand. Then I left her because I thought it was enough." The chamber was silent. Another elder spoke. "Why? What debt compelled you?" Kai's chest tightened. He met their eyes. "Because my sister died when no one stopped. Because I swore I wouldn't let it happen again. Not to anyone." His voice cracked, raw with memory. "That's it. No law, no reward. Just because it was right." The circle flared, light pulsing brighter. Elders whispered to one another, voices low but urgent. Finally, Serenia broke her silence. "He speaks true. I knew the story. My sister swore the stars bound her life to his, and now he saves me as well. Twice debt, not once." The chamber erupted in uproar. Some elders shouted in agreement, others in fury. Hunters slammed weapons against the floor, their voices clashing like thunder. The matriarch raised her hand again, and the silence fell. Her gaze pierced Kai like a blade. Truth lives in your eyes. Courage lives in your voice. Debt is proven. Relief surged through Kai until the matriarch's tone hardened. But law is not only debt, law is bond. Serenia, daughter of my blood, spoke words yesterday that cannot be ignored. She declared her heart before clan. That is forbidden between kin. Gasps filled the hall. Kai froze, his heart hammered. What does that mean? He asked. The matriarch's gaze shifted to Serenia. It means if he remains as son by debt, your vow of heart condemns you both. Before Kai could speak, the chamber doors slammed open. Terran's soldiers marched in, rifles gleaming, the authorities' flag projecting from their shoulder armor. At their head strode Captain Rourke, his face a mask of disdain. By order of the Terran Authority, he barked, this man is our citizen. He aided enemies of the state, harbored fugitives, and engaged in treason. He comes with us. Now. The chamber erupted into chaos again. Aliens shouting in their tongue, hunters drawing blades, Terran rifles snapping into aim. The air thrummed with violence, a single breath from war. The matriarch rose, her voice cutting like thunder. He is dead of clan. His fate is mine to decide. Rourke sneered. Not on Terran soil. Kai's stomach lurched. He was about to be torn apart, not by blades or bullets, but by two laws colliding in fire. And then he realized if he stayed silent, he was dead. Enough! Kai's voice rang across the chamber. Every eye turned to him. I don't care whose law it is, he said, shaking but unbroken. Terran or clan, I won't run, I won't hide. Put me on trial, here, now. Decide if I live or die, but don't make others bleed for me. The silence that followed was suffocating. Even the soldiers hesitated, fingers twitching on their triggers. The matriarch's lips curved, almost into a smile. You would accept judgment of stars? Kai forced a breath. If it means ending this blood feud, yes. Serenia's eyes widened, shimmering with something fierce. Pride, fear, love. The matriarch studied him for a long, terrible moment. Then she nodded. Then so be it. The elders closed the circle again. Flames of light rose higher, symbols burning across the floor. The matriarch stepped into the ring with him, her presence crushing. Kai Mercer, she intoned, Terran soldier, exile, oathbreaker. You stand accused of trespass and defiance, but bound by debt and courage. If your truth is false, you die. If true, law must bend. She drew a blade of star metal, its edge humming. She pressed the point to his chest. Speak. Not why you saved her, but why you choose her now. Kai's heart thundered. He looked at Serenia. She stood tall despite her chains, violet eyes locked on him, her whole being screaming defiance of her fate. And in that moment, everything else, the matriarch, the soldiers, the war, fell away. Because I don't see her as debt, he said hoarsely. I see her as choice. She's not obligation. She's not law. She's the only thing that's felt right since the war. I choose her. Whatever it costs, whatever it means, I choose her. The chamber erupted. Elders shouted, hunters roared, soldiers cursed. But Serenia smiled, radiant even through blood and chains. Her voice rang out, clear and unshakable. Then I choose him, not as kin, not as debt, but as bond. The matriarch's blade trembled. For the first time her mask cracked. Shock, perhaps even sorrow. She lifted her head slowly. Then tomorrow, she said, voice heavy as stone, I return with final decision. Her eyes locked onto Kai's, merciless. Think carefully what that means, Terran. For you, for her, for us all. She sheathed her blade, turned, and swept from the chamber. Behind her, the council dissolved into chaos. Soldiers retreating under protest, hunters roaring their discontent. But Kai saw none of it. He saw only Serenia, her chains rattling as she stood proud, her eyes burning into his. And in that gaze, he knew tomorrow would change everything. The dawn was merciless. Crimson light bled across the canyon as the matriarch's war cruiser returned, shadows stretching across the land. Hunters lined the cliffs, armor gleaming. Elders gathered in solemn silence, their faces painted with ritual markings. From the opposite ridge, Terran skimmers descended, Captain Rourke's soldiers marching into formation. Their rifles gleamed under the rising sun, every barrel aimed toward the gathering. 2 worlds, 1 trial. Kai Mercer stood in the center of it all, the weight of the night pressing on his chest. Serenia stood beside him, chains still draped across her wrists but her posture unbroken, violet eyes fierce as ever. The matriarch descended the ramp, her silver hair catching the dawn like a crown of fire. Her gaze swept across the crowd, then fixed on Kai. "Terran," she said, "today we end this. Speak your choice and accept the star's answer." The circle of light burned into the canyon floor once more. Kai stepped into it, heart pounding. Every eye followed him, the elders, the hunters, the soldiers, Serenia herself. He took a breath. "I don't want to be your debt," he said, voice carrying. "I don't want to be your prisoner or your pawn or anyone's symbol. I only want one thing. I choose Serenia, not because I saved her, not because law demands it, because I want her, because she's worth defying everything for." Gasps rippled through the clan. Soldiers muttered curses. Elders whispered furiously. But Serenia lifted her chin, chains clattering, and declared, "And I choose him, not as duty, not as throne, but as bond." Her words struck like thunder. The matriarch's eyes burned, ancient and unreadable. She raised her blade of star metal, its edge humming with deadly promise. "Then law must decide," she intoned. "If debt binds, you are brother. If bond binds, you are outlaw. One cannot be both." She raised the blade higher, then stopped. Her gaze softened just for an instant. "My daughters," she whispered. The elders shifted uneasily. Hunters murmured. Even Rourke frowned, sensing hesitation. Finally, the matriarch lowered the blade. "Then law must bend." The words rippled across the canyon like an earthquake. "Debt is ended," the matriarch declared. "Adoption released. He is no son of mine. But bond remains. If Serenia claims him, if he claims her, then by clan law they are bound, and by Terran witness, no blade may sever it." She turned to the soldiers, voice cutting like steel. "So declares the matriarch. Will Terran authority defy both debt and bond?" Captain Rourke's jaw clenched. His men shifted nervously. A battle here meant treaties shattered, colonies burned, fleets drawn into endless war. With a curse, Rourke spat in the dust. "This isn't over." But he signaled retreat. The soldiers withdrew, skimmers lifting into the sky. The canyon roared with the sound of alien voices, warriors slamming blades against shields, elders chanting ancient vows. Kai barely heard them. All he saw was Serenia. The matriarch stepped forward, her expression unreadable. From within her mantle, she drew a chain of silver and bone, its centerpiece carved with constellations. She held it high for all to see. "By law of stars and law of heart, I give bond. Serenia Vera, daughter of matriarch, Kai Mercer, Terran exile. From this dawn you are chosen. Not brother, not stranger, but one." She placed the chain around their joined hands. Its weight was immense, yet it felt like freedom. The canyon erupted in thunderous cries. Serenia's violet eyes shimmered as she looked down at him. "You are mine, Kai Mercer." His throat tightened. He squeezed her hand. "And you're mine." The ritual completed, the warriors dispersed into celebration, their chants echoing through the valley. Elders bowed their heads in reluctant respect. Even the hunters who had sworn to kill him now saluted with blades across their chests. The matriarch lingered a moment longer, her gaze lingering on Serenia. Then she turned to Kai, her voice quieter now, meant only for them. "You are Terran," she said, "but you are more. Remember, this bond carries more than love. It carries war. It carries peace. How you walk will decide which." Kai nodded. "I'll walk it with her." For the first time, the matriarch smiled, just barely. Then she turned and left, her cloak trailing like the night itself. When the crowds thinned, Kai and Serenia stood alone at the edge of the canyon. The storm had cleared, leaving the sky a stretch of crimson and gold. She towered above him, armor cracked, chains still dangling. Yet she looked every inch the princess she was born to be. "You chose hard path," she said softly. Kai laughed, the sound half weary, half alive. "The hard path's the only one worth walking." For a long moment they simply stood there, the silence heavy with everything unspoken. Then Serenia bent low, her forehead pressing against his. Her bioluminescent markings glowed brighter, pulsing in rhythm with his racing heartbeat. It wasn't a kiss, it was more. A vow, a promise, a bond forged not by law, but by choice. Kai closed his eyes, letting it brand itself into his soul. For the first time since the war, since his sister's death, he felt whole again. As the sun rose higher, casting fire across the horizon, Kai realized he had not just survived. He had changed the course of two worlds, by choosing compassion when everyone else chose law, by standing when he should have bowed, by choosing her. And in her eyes, fierce and luminous, he saw the truth he had been searching for all along. Humans weren't meant to conquer the stars. They were meant to love them,